In a more recent example, isn't Barcelona about to celebrate the completion of the Gaudi Cathedral after more than 100 years of construction?
Yeah, I think that's right. The Sagrada Familia, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and we don't
I've only
think
seen it
on
with
those
scaffolding. I've never seen it finished. Right.
Yeah, and I think thinking on that time scale is important, and I don't think we do much of that anymore. I mean, a lot of architecture is driven by profit, so you want to get it done fast, you want to get it done cheap, you want to if there's a better idea that comes along, meaning a more profitable one, you want to be able to undo what you did and redo it. And yeah, I wish we could think more on century-long scales, because the work, I think, has a deeper meaning when you're thinking about it being used by many generations, to a point where again, you may not even see the completion of it. I think there's something really beautiful in that if we're trying to make things that are meant to last well beyond our time here, that's a really beautiful idea.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps that's one of those one of those things that happens with our current system of government. And I guess the monarchies allowed for a sense of legacy and a sense of many of the kings and queens of the past would try and build frankly, a monument to themselves, or a monument to their period anyways. And famously almost, bankrupt countries like France for all the money they spent on building grand structures to their own image, right? And there were revolutions that happened as a result of it. But that's a different sense of economy, of finances. And I'd never thought about the idea that post-monarchies, when there's not one person deciding to build a grand structure, that something like architecture and the idea of delayed gratification to leaving a legacy and creating something beautiful might have suffered, actually, in that transition.
Maybe. But I don't think it's impossible to do it, right? We might just need to shift our thinking a little. I don't think it's impossible to do it in a more democratic society.
Yeah.
But we are also a fairly young country. Maybe that has something to do with it, the United States. And, but we appreciate architecture from the past. It just takes a while, I think, for us to connect that appreciation with a sense that we can also make the architecture of the past for future generations. And that it really shouldn't come down to whether you have a plan to make money on it right now. One of the earlier projects I worked on in acoustics was a St. Luke's Cathedral in London, and it was made into a rehearsal space for the London Symphony Orchestra. This was back when I was at a firm called Kierkegaard Associates out of Chicago. But if I recall, the church was built in the early 1700s, and it had sat vacant for decades before they found this use for it. And it was wonderful that they didn't tear it down just because they weren't sure what its purpose was for a few decades.
Yes.
And that made it available for this now beautiful use. And I think the LSO signed a 100-year lease on it or something like that. It's a glorious space. It's a lovely space, and it was worth waiting for. But I do sometimes think that in the States, we might have torn that building down in an eagerness to do something productive immediately with that property.
Thank you for watching and listening. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. And a special thanks to those who support us on Patreon. It's your support that enables us to do this work.